What if you wake up one day to a world where the conveniences of modern life have vanished? A chilling thought, isn't it? Imagine a scenario where you're jolted out of your everyday routine, not by a blaring alarm clock, but by an emergency broadcast announcing an imminent threat to national security. Your heart races, adrenaline pumps through your veins, and a sense of dread fills the air. Suddenly, you're faced with the stark reality that no immediate help is on its way. In this world of smartphones and same-day deliveries, we've grown accustomed to modern comforts. We've become so dependent on these conveniences that most of us have forgotten how to survive without them. But what happens when these comforts disappear overnight? When the lights go out, the stores shut down, and the cell towers fall silent, how would you fare? When the unthinkable happens, will you be ready? Modern comforts have made life easier, but have they also made us more vulnerable? Ponder on that for a moment. The convenience of running water at the twist of a tap, the luxury of heat at the flick of a switch, the ease of communication at the touch of a screen. We've become so intertwined with these modern conveniences that the thought of living without them is almost inconceivable. But what happens when these comforts are stripped away? When the supermarket shelves are bare and the internet is a distant memory? Our forefathers knew how to survive without these luxuries. They could hunt, gather, build, and repair. But many of us today, we've lost these basic survival skills. We've traded self-sufficiency for convenience, and in doing so, we've left ourselves exposed. So consider this: in a world where everything you've come to rely on is suddenly gone, how will you fare? In the face of adversity, our reliance on these comforts could be our downfall. Do you know someone who relies on prescription medication to survive? We live in an era where medical advancements have given us the power to manage, control, and even conquer illnesses that were once considered life-threatening. But this gift of health comes with an invisible chain, a silent dependence on pharmaceutical supplies. Imagine a world where supply chains for these life-saving elixirs are disrupted. An alarming reality, isn't it? Suddenly, the local pharmacy runs out of insulin, or the heart medication your loved one needs is no longer available. This reliance on prescription drugs, at first a beacon of hope, now becomes a matter of survival. Think about the potential chaos, the desperation of those who depend on these medications to live. In a disaster scenario, the lack of access to these pharmaceutical supplies could lead to serious health crises, or worse, loss of life. In a crisis, the silent dependence on pharmaceutical supplies could turn into a loud disaster. What happens when the money runs out? Imagine a world where your credit cards are useless, your savings account is just a number on a screen, and the dollar bills in your wallet are worth less than the paper they're printed on. This is the reality of a debt time bomb, a ticking timepiece of widespread personal and national debt. Our society has become a house of cards, built on a shaky foundation of loans and credit. We've grown accustomed to living beyond our means, relying on tomorrow's income to pay for today's luxuries. But what happens when tomorrow's income never comes? An economic collapse could turn our world upside down, exacerbating societal breakdowns and pushing survival to the forefront of our daily concerns. Forget about keeping up with the Joneses. When the debt time bomb explodes, survival could become a luxury. This is a grim reality we must prepare for, as unpredictable as it is inevitable. What if the technology that powers our world suddenly fails? In our modern society, we're more connected than ever before, but this connection comes with a price. We've become so reliant on complex technological systems that the failure of one could lead to a domino effect, causing widespread infrastructure failures. Consider this: our power grids, communication networks, transportation systems, even our food and water supplies all hinge on technology. But what happens when the lights go out and your cell phone is just an expensive paperweight? The loss of these systems, even temporarily, could throw us into chaos. Imagine trying to navigate a world without GPS, or a hospital trying to function without power. Our dependence on technology has left us vulnerable in a crisis. And in a catastrophic scenario, our technological house of cards could collapse with a single gust of chaos. Can our cities survive a catastrophe? Let's delve into this. Our urban centers, bustling with life, could be the very epicenters of chaos in a crisis. Picture this: skyscrapers that once kissed the sky becoming towering infernos, streets that echoed with the hum of life turning into ghost towns. Why? Overpopulation. More people means more mouths to feed, more bodies to shelter, and more panic to control. It's a simple equation, but a terrifying reality. Resources are already stretched thin in many of our cities. In a crisis, those resources could be obliterated in a heartbeat. And what about our infrastructure? Water, power, public transportation, all designed for a functioning society, not for a city on the brink. When these systems fail, and they will, the urban environment can become a hostile landscape. The city, your city, could be a powder keg, just waiting for the spark of catastrophe. Our urban centers could turn into powder kegs ready to explode. Can a divided society stand together in a crisis? This is a question we must ask ourselves as we navigate the troubled waters of our current social climate. Deep political and cultural divisions have created a chasm in our society, a divide that could lead to conflict and severely hinder cooperative survival efforts in a time of crisis. Imagine a scenario where societal unity is vital for survival, yet the deep-seated divisions have sown seeds of mistrust and discord among us. This is not a far-fetched scenario, but a potential reality we could face in a catastrophic event. Different perspectives and ideologies are a part of any thriving society. However, when these differences escalate to a point where cooperation and unity become challenging, we risk compromising our collective resilience. In a crisis, the strength of a society is measured by its ability to stand together, to work together. A divided society could be our Achilles heel in a crisis. Are we prepared for the worst? Most of us would answer that question with a resounding no. But why is that so? Let's take a moment to contrast with regions or countries where preparedness is a part of the culture. In some parts of the world, people are trained from a young age to deal with all kinds of emergencies. They know how to source food and water, build shelter, provide first aid, and protect themselves in dangerous situations. Unfortunately, such preparedness is not a part of the American culture. We tend to focus more on the now, on the conveniences of modern life, and less on the potential future risks. We live in a society that is largely unprepared for a catastrophic event. This lack of preparedness, this unprepared majority, is a matter of great concern. After all, in a crisis, we are only as strong as our weakest link. The unprepared majority could be the weakest link in our survival chain. How quickly can peace turn into chaos? Let's imagine a scenario where resources are scarce, tensions are high, and the social order we're so used to starts to crumble. It's a frightening thought, isn't it? But it's a potential reality we must confront. In the face of a societal breakdown, it's not uncommon for civil unrest to follow. People panic, they fear, they fight for what's left. And this unrest can escalate at an alarming pace. When the supermarket shelves are empty, when the water stops running, when power outages become the norm, desperation sets in. In these high-stress situations, the thin veneer of civilization can quickly peel away. It's in these moments that we see the true face of humanity, both the good and the bad. And it's in these moments that the spark of unrest can ignite a firestorm of chaos. The question is, are you prepared for the heat? In the face of catastrophe, how will you fare? We've journeyed together through a landscape of alarming possibilities, from the comfort trap of modern conveniences to the silent dependence on pharmaceutical supplies. We've examined the ticking time bomb of debt and the fragile house of cards our technological dependency has built. We've ventured into the urban powder keg, where overpopulation could ignite chaos, and across the deep social divide that could hinder cooperative survival efforts. We've seen the unprepared majority and felt the spark of potential unrest. Each of these realities paints a stark picture of the chaos and challenges that could arise in a U.S. collapse. But the power to change this narrative rests with us. Preparedness and resilience are our best defense in the face of uncertainty. It's time to prepare for tomorrow, because tomorrow may be nothing like today. Subscribe for more insights and tips on preparing for the unthinkable.